Good morning, everybody. Really excited to be here. My name is Prachi Jain, and I will be your moderator for the morning and evening if you're watching from the US. But really excited to be here and welcome to the event across the Modal Seas. It's an online international concert, one of its kind, and we're very excited to bring some very talented musicians to you. I would love to begin by talking a little bit more about Bhagwan Mahavir University. So Bhagwan Mahavir University which works under its parent body, Bhagwan Mahavir Education Foundation, which was established back in 2002, giving it a legacy of more than 20 years in the education sector. The entire BMU family, with its employees and staff members, are constantly working hard for the upliftment and education of the young Indian minds. That's done by giving them an environment to upskill and by making their dreams a reality. BMU promotes courses in interdisciplinary studies with a focus on industry-relevant and skills-oriented curriculum that includes several undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral programs in various streams like engineering, life and basic sciences, business and management, etc. Today's event across the Modal Seas is a push in that same direction. We are very lucky to partner with Your Heaven Audio, which is an audio tech company based out of the United States, to bring the music of some really skilled artists to you. I have and continue to work very closely with Steve Schwartz, who's going to be my co-moderator for this event. I would love to welcome Steve Schwartz to talk a little bit more about Your Heaven Audio, which is an audio technology company, and give you a little bit brief about this event and the construct of this program that we have designed for you. A little bit more about Steve. So Steve is a founder of Your Heaven Audio. He is an inventor and has a couple of patents to his name. And he's an avid drummer himself. And I'm very excited to have him join this program. Steve.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Steve, founder of Your Heaven Audio, and we are so glad to be able to work with Bhagwan Mahavir University in your process of mixing culture and technology and innovation around the globe. It's a great university in my city also, called Brown University, and I studied with some professors there who introduced me to Prachi when she was doing her master's, and that's how we met. I've always loved music. Since I was 4 or 5, I took my first piano lessons, and I have played one instrument or another. I'm no good at the piano, but I've worked on many others. And I also like to build things. That instrument there is called an Appalachian Mountain dulcimer. I built that many years ago. It was my first independent venture. I did it with a friend. We got 2 logs of wood and we scraped them down and we built 15 of these, ran out of money and had to get jobs. But it was my first introduction to building things in a scale that was meant for other people. One day I built something for my drum set, because I'm mostly a drummer, as Prachi mentioned, and it sounded much better than it should have sounded. And some friends of mine who were interested, including Arvid, who you'll meet later, started working on it, and it developed into this company, Your Heaven Audio. We developed digital algorithms that match a special microphone to a specific musical instrument, and we build them into an easy-to-use small box. It allows you to get a sort of recording studio quality sound without a recording engineer or without a recording studio. And it's ideal for a musician who's not an engineer to easily make a really great sounding, for instance, solo concert in your apartment, which, because of the weird circumstances we're under now, is something that a lot of people have to do. We call it the close-up system. Here is one of the microphones on a violin. Small little thing, it just tucks in here. There's no scraping or gluing or hurting the violin, and it attaches. We have a special little mechanism that stretches to make sure that nothing happens to the violin with the cable. And here is the little box that I mentioned a little while ago. Has switches and things. It's got a lot of features, but the important part is that it really does make your instrument sound exactly like your instrument sounds, and that's what we want, especially with the kind of music that we're hearing today, which is mostly solo, a little bit not solo, but mostly just solo. So one of the great things about this job is that the journey has taken me to meet so many great musicians, and I get these fabulous personal concerts, 15, 20 minutes, they'll just sit there and play while we record. And I sit in my basement or in their living room while they're testing, and it's a wonderful thing. And as when Prachi started putting this together and suggesting that we do this concert, we lined up a bunch of folks who were the right people to do for it. And I realized that there's a sort of a musical theme that holds them all together. There's a scale. We usually call it in my culture, we call them modes. It's the collection of notes that make up a scale, and they're different than the notes that we hear in pop music, for sure. These modes came originally out of an area that would be something like ancient Persia, Afghanistan, somewhere between Greece and India is where our historians think this music developed. And so that's where we're starting. Because historically, it mostly moved from east to west. We're going to do it that way geographically also. We're going to start in India. Kais is going to play rebab, but he'll be playing North Indian classical music. Then we'll go to a Greek lauto. Then we'll go to Spain. So the Spanish were heavily influenced by the Arabic and Middle Eastern sounds because of the Moors who occupied Spain a 1,000 or so years ago. And then the Spanish music greatly influenced the music of Mexico and South America. So that is the Latin American style that you will hear. And at the very end, we're going to go back to India, and we're going to have a drummer in the States who has learned to play classical Indian drumming on a drum set. And he has a special way of doing that, and he'll describe that for you in the process. To avoid interruptions that are almost guaranteed when we have musicians literally all over the world, but they don't have tech support in their room helping them do that, we decided it was best to record these events for you. So they were all made for this using our microphones. And we will have a live discussion with them all after all the 5 performances. And our first performance is going to be Kais Assar, who will be playing Rabab, and he will explain a little bit about that. Janish, if you could please go ahead and play that performance. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Kais Assar. I play the Rabab. This is the Rabab. A little background, it's an instrument that originates in present-day Afghanistan. It's roughly estimated to be about 2,500 years old. A variant of the Rabab is found throughout Central Asia and the Asian subcontinent. So it's a popular instrument in different forms. North Indian classical music is a music that is shared with countries throughout the region. So in Afghanistan, we also adhere to that system of music. So I will be presenting a rendition of Rag Kirwani, which is an evening raga, on the Rabab. A short alap or introduction of the rag.
Hi, that was awesome. Kais is such an amazing player. I once heard him play at the Newport Folk Festival as a cellist. Great guy. Next we have Vasilis Kostas. He's going to play Greek lauto, which is like a Greek oud. You'll see. He is the one person who's not able to make the panel. He's in I think a mountain village in Greece somewhere with his family. He went back when COVID hit the United States to spend some time with his family there. But he plays wonderful, wonderful music, and studied at Berkeley School actually for a while. So you'll hear sort of modern influences in his style of playing. These are his own compositions. Janesh, please, if you would mind, Vasilis. So that was fabulous. Put me in a meditative mood. Next, we go to Spain, what is sometimes called the Moorish occupation of the Iberian Peninsula, centered around about 1,000 years ago. It started something like somewhere between 400 and 700 after the birth of Christ, and ended sort of around the mid 1400s. And Aaron Larget Kaplan will play guitar, Spanish guitar, and he'll explain to you. He's got a special version of a piece that's related to Indian music, actually. So, Janish, please.
Hello, my name is Aaron Larger Kaplan. I am a classical guitarist in the United States. I am a performer, a recording artist, an arranger, and a professor at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. I will be performing today 4 pieces. The first is by Bach. Bach did not write for the guitar, so this is an arrangement, meaning I took the music originally for keyboard and put it on the guitar. The second piece is by Vineet Shende. He is a living composer who teaches at Bowdoin College in Brunswick, Maine. He and I are collaborating on a project where he reimagines the prelude by Bach as if Bach were from South India, and these are called Carnatic preludes. The third piece is called Recuerdos de la Alhambra. In English, that is Memories of the Alhambra, the last fortress of the Moorish Empire in Granada. And the last piece is called España Cani by Pascual Marquina, which is a paso doble, and that is the music played when the bull enters the bull ring in a bullfight. So the first one is from Germany by Bach, the second one is America / Germany / Southern India, and the third piece and fourth piece are both Spanish. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an amazing experience and enjoy the music. Thank you all very much, and be safe, listen well. Cheers.
Thanks, Aaron. Aaron is in the same time zone as I am. Jesus is our next performer. He is in Los Angeles, and he's also a producer. So he chose to make his piece not just with his violin, but with some of the other tools that he's used to using. And he'll explain a little bit about that also. Sorry, Janesh, go ahead.
Hi everybody, Jesus Florido here, coming to you from Los Angeles, California. I'm very excited to be here. India is a very special place to me. I've been there many times. We can talk about that a little bit later. But I wanted to show you a little bit of what I do. I'm a classically trained violinist, multi-style player, which means I cover a lot of spectrum of different styles, from Indian music to Latin music to classical to Beethoven and Paganini, to just about anything I can get my hands into. my tools are usually involve a lot of great technology. That's when my close-up system is never far from my violin. It's sitting right here. It's by far the best thing I've ever tried, and I've tried a lot of them, like I always tell Steve. Anyway, so for today, I wanted to show you two very contrasting songs to show you somewhat the range of things that I cover. On this very first song, it's called Ultra from my CD Heading North, and I'm actually going to be releasing it a new remaster version soon. Where it's very electronic, even though the drums are acoustic, but the violin is very highly processed. And then on the second one, I wanted to show you one of my favorite and one of my hits, a very Latin song called Mi Negra, which in Spanish is a term of endearment, which is my dear. I wrote it for a dear friend of mine who inspired me to be a better dancer. I mean, I'm not such a good dancer. I'm okay. It's okay. But anyway, so here for you, it's Ultra. And now for my second song, I wanted to show you, like I said, a little bit of the Latin side. In this song, the violin is pretty much straight, a little bit of a reverb and a little bit of delay, but pretty much straight from my mic on. And enjoy Mi Negra. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesus. That was great. I love the evolutionary T-shirt from ape to taxi advisor. Remember that from New York City. That blast of rhythm is a good segue to our last performer, Ray Belli. This plays percussion, and he'll explain to you how he's managed to transfer the styles of compositions of Indian music to a drum set. He's also from this area, another East Coaster. Go ahead, Shanish.
So what I do on the Western drum kit is adapt traditional tabla bowls or sounds or syllables and correlate them to different sounds on my drum set. So, for example, datita datita. Dinna gena dinna gena dinna kena dinna kena. Dati dagi dinna gena. Tidikita da. So the theme is da da ti ta da ti ta da ti da dinna ta ta ti ta da ti da ti da dinna, which through theme and variation will develop into da 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 da.
Awesome. I think Prachi is going to come back now.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Okay, yeah, sure. So that was great. I hope all of you had as much fun as we did and that the musicians did when they created this music for you guys. We'll move on to the Q&A session. As you can see, there is a Q&A button. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave your questions there, or there is a hand raising feature. So if you have any questions that you want to ask yourself, just raise your hand and we'll unmute your microphone. But before that, let's bring all the musicians online. Over to you, Steve.
Great, Janish. Thank you. Thank you. So the musicians are beginning to appear. You should all put on your videos and I guess microphones, unless there's noise in your apartments, so that way we can just sort of talk. There is, I guess I should introduce them in order. Kais Essar played the Rabab. Vasilis was not able to join us. He's in Greece in a mountain village someplace with no internet, I think. Aaron played guitar for us. Jesus played violin. And Ray was the drummer we just saw. Kind of amazing, fun thing. Cool. I'm not sure exactly how this works in terms of the screen. I'll let Janish manage that. But I would ask maybe in that order, if you could each give us just sort of like a 1-minute bio of what brought you to playing music. Did you have a particular fondness for that instrument, or did that just sort of work out that way? Or just short, but people have been asking those questions. So, Keist, would you like to start? Remember to unmute. Thanks.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Cool. My name is Kais. I play the Rabab. So I started to formally learn music around 6 or 7. Formally started to learn any classical music as well as Western classical music. So that kind of helped shape what I do now, and that's just kind of create music that I like to think is more of like a global genre. So right, with those two perspectives kind of like working in tandem with each other. So that's kind of cool. Why do I play music? As you can tell, I'm not a very eloquent speaker. So for me, this was a way just to be able to communicate better, and words I find are limiting. So more could be said with maybe something that's not specifically, language.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Cool. Aaron?
Good. Okay. Aaron Larger Kaplan here.
A little louder for.
Let's see. Aaron Larger Kaplan. How's that? Better? Cool.
Yeah.
Why do I play music, or how? Oh,
Just a little bit of your history.
I started playing plucked instruments with electric guitar. I wanted to be a rock star, and I was about, I think, 10 or 11 when I started electric guitar. And then when I was 16, I saw a video of this guy, Andres Segovia, an amazing Spanish guitarist. And I said, that's what I want to do. And so I dropped my pick I stuck my pick between my fingers and tried to pluck it on an electric guitar and saved up some money to buy a classical guitar, which is nylon strung. And that was it. And I just decided to devote myself to that. I read music. The Western classical music is not an oral tradition per se. It's notated, And so I had to start to learn to read music, and I fell in love with contemporary music, Spanish music. Flamenco is the folk music of Spain, and so I play a bit of that. But my main interest is just sharing in music and in the tactile feeling of an instrument vibrating against my chest, and playing with other people is just fascinating. So that's what I do every day with my fingernails. 5 swords, as they say. Yeah.
Thank you. Jesus. Now we'll get a West Coast perspective.
Yeah, hi everybody. Well, I've been playing violin pretty much my entire life, and one of my favorite things to say when people ask me, "Why did you choose the violin?" is that I didn't. My mom forced me to play. Um, but you know, I was brought up in a classical tradition, obviously, and Western music and stuff. But I happened to be born in Venezuela, from an Italian family, Italian Moroccan family. So I was already a world musician by the time I was born, because I was exposed to all this music, not only classical music, but all the Latin music and all the Middle Eastern music, and you know, all this stuff was in my ears. To me, that was normal. You know, I came to the United States to go to college and study, be ready to be a concert violinist, and once I came here, I discovered many other styles. And when I was actually in college, I went to a Carnatic music concert that I've never heard before, and nobody told me the concerts are like 5 hours long. And I sat there, and that day my life changed. You know, I heard this Carnatic violin guy sitting on his on the floor with a violin like this, doing all this stuff, and I was never the same. So I consider myself kind of a world musician or world fusion. And now that I've been in Los Angeles for about 20 years or so, producing music for film and other artists, and I incorporated, like you saw, like electronics and stuff and push machines and things. You know, I get bored easily. and but music is what I've done my entire life. I mean, is my way to communicate, my way also to travel. I travel a lot, and it's thanks to music. So it's fun. It's fun.
These are things that are true for all of us. Ray, I'll bet you were not forced by your mom to play the drums.
No.
Wild guess here.
The true story behind how I got my first drum set was that I was like 7 or 8 years old, and my mom actually left VH1 on. They were interviewing Kiss. It was like a behind the music type show, and they interviewed the drummer. And at this point, I had no interest in music. I wasn't one of those kids that, you know, was like immediately drawn to music. But when they interviewed the drummer, he said that he took out all the pots and pans when he was a kid and like would hit them and would annoy his mother. And I said, well, that sounds like a great idea. So I literally took out all the pots and pans, started banging them. And then my mom came down, she was upstairs, and she's like, what are you doing? And then I just sort of like guilt tripped her. I was like, oh, you would never let me have a drum set. You know, you like things to be neat. You don't want to hear the noise. And then this was like 3 weeks before Christmas. And so as a joke, she bought me a toy snare drum. And then I just, you know, every day, just hit it. Again, no music was happening. It was just smashing. So I smashed for about a year, and then it broke. And then I got like a toy drum set, and I smashed that for about a year, and then that broke. And then 2 years into just smashing, I got a real drum set when I was like maybe 9 or 10, something like that. So that's the story of how I started playing Western drums. And yeah, the brief story of how I got into Indian music was that I knew that I wasn't going to go to college for music, but I wanted to continue learning, and I thought that, you know, maybe I knew that tabla were hard. I knew that Indian classical music was hard, so I thought, you know, maybe this is a way that I can enrich my rhythmic knowledge and continue learning about my own instrument, but in a backdoor sort of way. So I actually started studying on the tabla itself. After about 3 or 4 years, I stopped
playing tabla, but I continued to learn composition and speaking these bowls. And then, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that, I started doing this process of adapting the tabla repertoire for the Western drum kit.
Cool. Your story is almost identical to mine. You've never heard it before, but when I was about 6 or 7, my mom bought me a toy drum. I think she bought me a nicer one than yours. It lasted 4 or 5 years. It never quite crashed. And after I stuck with it for about 5 years, at like 10 or 11, I convinced them to get me a first drum set. We drove to a nearby town where there was one offered on what at the time was Craigslist, sort of the newspaper version, predecessor of Craigslist, and I got my first little used drum set. Cool. There have been some questions in the chat. One person has asked us about drumming. He spoke to you and me specifically, Ray, and I'll just quickly answer this one. You can get in touch with us, but he asked, how do I continue with this? I think the best way to continue is to find a teacher, to find somebody that you enjoy learning with, because it's so much faster than just playing on your own. And another question was using an electronic drum set. An electronic drum set is a sort of a different choice. So it's really what speaks to you when you're playing drums. This is to Sarak. I'm not sure I can read it on this fuzzy screen, sorry. But feel free to send us an email or something later if you want to chat a little bit about that. And I don't want to take up too much time with a technical question or a drummer question. Were there some other questions that some of you folks have saw online that you would want to address?
Yeah, so there are some questions coming in. One question, let's have someone who has raised their hands ask the question themselves. So this guy raised his hand right at the beginning of the concert, and he's been waiting for a really long time. So Shrey Gurasia, can you unmute? Unmute him, Jenish? Shrey, if you're there, can you ask your question, please? Just unmute yourself and ask a question. Okay, we'll come back to him. The next person is Nikita Sharma. Nikita will give you the unmuting privileges. You just have to unmute yourself and ask a question.
No, ma'am, no any question.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Thanks for listening.
Then there is Shirish Raj. Can you unmute him, please?
Hey, hello.
Hi, Shirish, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, so I'm playing acoustic guitar since a year, and motivation from playing it has been decreasing day by day. So how can I continue it?
Okay,
As a guitarist?
No, I just watch YouTube videos and I learn like random things.
Okay. One thing is, if on a technical level, is make sure you change your strings once a month or a couple months, as the strings are in the world. They oxidate if they're steel strings, especially, or nylon, and the string sound dulls very quickly. I have a nylon string guitar, and I have to change my strings almost every week to every other week, because the sound isn't as shiny. We like shiny things, so I find when I'm losing my inspiration or desire to play, I change the strings, and it's like putting on fresh bed sheets. It's like, oh, that's wonderful. Besides that, if you're watching YouTube or something, try finding a teacher, even online. Of course, we're in COVID. You could study with anyone in the world at this point. But it is, I can say through experience, having someone not hold a whip over you, but more of a carrot to guide you, just to give you a couple of pointers and give you a couple compliments can be really wonderful. So, and of course, listen to buttloads of music. That helps too.
Yeah, I play some guitar also, and that all sounds spot on to me. I would add to that that what I found helpful was to find a piece of music that seemed like I was going to be able to play it in a reasonable amount of time. Right? There are these beautiful, fantastic things. Aaron plays some of those things. It would take me years to learn to play those, and that's not a good goal to have. What's good to find is a piece there are plenty of pieces that are easily as beautiful as what he played, but they're much simpler. Beauty has not to do with technical difficulty. So listening around and finding a piece that sounds like, yeah, I'm gonna be able to get there in 3 months or 4 months and have that. That's a big step. And taking steps like that instead of just sort of noodling around and waiting and seeing what you find, that's what gives me the best inspiration.
Second that.
Awesome. Okay, so there were some questions that came in during each of your performances. So I'll take one each and we'll go around the table. The first question is for Kais. What all things were going on in your mind while you were giving your performance, or when you usually give your performances?
Nothing. That's the greatest thing about it. Nothing. I'm not here, you're not here. There's like a huge esoteric explanation. I'm not sure if anyone wants to hear that, but essentially make condense like the cosmos into like a couple sentences. You just kind of like become a vessel for something that's a little bit more greater than yourself. I feel like I'm the one that's giving all like the woo answers, but that's essentially it. You check out and you kind of like let something else come in and kind of like channel through you. And so yeah, what am I thinking? I'm not even here on Earth, so can't tell you.
Awesome. That's a good telling.
Sorry.
That's the best answer we could have, probably.
Right, and to each its own, I guess. There were some questions for Vasilis as well. Steve, do you feel you can take any of those questions?
Well, it's hard to say. Which one was it? Did you have one in particular that?
Yeah, especially like it's around a little bit about Vasilis and his instrument, the lauto.
Well, the lauto, so that's a Greek version of an oud. If you listen to Arabic music, there's an oud that looks very similar to that. And if you look at Renaissance paintings, there are, you'll see that it looks kind of similar to a lute, this shape and this size and sort of playing technique moved around from region to region as cultures developed and as people traded back and forth. Like you bring somebody vegetables, but then you also hear this cool thing being played. So you say, "Oh, that was nice. I'll ask the guy to build me one too." That stuff just sort of happens all over the place. It's a slightly different style. I don't know that much about it, but I know that he in particular is considered a really amazing player. He also plays some more traditional stuff, but it's his composition that really kind of blows me away, and that's what we got to hear tonight. If you have specific questions about that instrument, like you want to learn something about it or get some lessons or something, I think he does that online. So again, please contact us. Will we be able to put out an email or something for people to reach us with specific questions if they want to afterwards? Great.
Yes.
Great. So feel free to do that.
Yeah, I think
I'll put you in touch with him.
Yes. So after this concert, we will send out an email with all the musicians, their social media handles, and some of the questions that we're not able to answer here. And please feel free to follow any of these musicians, all of these musicians, and ask your questions. We'll also, we'll ask the musicians, and if they're okay with sharing their email addresses, we'll send out, just an email with all this information. Okay, so the next question is for Aaron. Aaron, how is your instrument different than an acoustic guitar?
It's a wonderful question. So the body of a classical guitar is a bit smaller in size, and the neck is wider. So I actually pluck the strings with my fingers, so the neck is wider, allowing my fingers to fit inside just a bit more. As I mentioned, the strings are made of nylon as opposed to steel strings. If I put steel strings on my guitar, it would explode in a horrible, wonderful explosion of wood. And yeah, so they are different. I can play acoustic music, acoustic guitar pieces on my classical guitar, and I can acoustic guitar, steel string, could play some classical pieces. The difference is the timbre and texture, and then because of the body shape, certain technical things are easier or more difficult. A flamenco guitar is very similar to a classical guitar, but the action, the height of the strings are closer to the fretboard, so it becomes more of a percussive instrument rather than just a melodic harmonic instrument. Ba-bing.
Okay, very cool. The next question is for Jesus. So Jesus, he said, well, in general, there's a comment saying all these performances were extraordinary, and this person really
Thank you.
enjoyed it. Jesus, how are you so passionate about your instrument, and why did you choose this instrument?
To me, my passion is for music. I feel very, very passionate about music. It's just, since, like I said, it's the upbringing. There was always music in my house, and I'm always listening. And when I figured out that I could have this as a job, that's my inspiration, you know. But also to share with people, and also with performers. Like we were discussing yesterday, it's like I already saw how this band is going to sound like. You know, we need to put a band together after this. But yeah, it's just the joy of music. I mean, music makes everybody happy or sad. It makes you feel things, you know. And sometimes when people ask me what I do, and I tell people I'm the feeling business. I make people feel things, you know, and I like that very much.
That's a great answer.
Yeah. Okay, then the next question is for Ray. Mr. Ray, what all things inspire you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what inspires you? Like, what's your inspiration?
What inspires me? Well, many things. I guess for what you saw me playing right now in this, like, you know, sort of invented, adapted style of Indian classical music. So I studied this directly with my guru, Pandit Divyang Vakil. So in this sense, my guru is certainly my inspiration, because without him sort of having the faith in me to be able to develop this style, and also having his patience to, like, you know, teach me in this way, and also his, like, vast mental catalog of knowledge, all of that together is really inspiring to me, because, as I'm sure many people listening know, Indian classical music is not a written tradition, it's an oral tradition. So, you know, he's been teaching for over 40 years, and, you know, if you like talk to his different students from year one to today, they all know such different material, and it's all like living in here with him, and I just think that that's totally incredible. That's like probably something that I won't achieve in my lifetime, just because it's just so much information, just thousands upon thousands, truly, without exaggeration, thousands upon thousands of compositions, variations, different versions. Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, thank you for that. Speaking of unique instruments, there are a lot of questions about the rebab. So before we, ask, I know Steve has a question for all of you. Kais, can you please share a little bit more about, your instrument, the history?
Sure. Cool. So the rebab is said to be roughly 2,500 years old. We know the date of the instrument because it's been cited in like a lot of like poetry and stuff. So in a lot of like Sufi poetry of the that was like, where in the time it originates, I think I had said in the video, in present day Afghanistan, but it's found in the region. So there is a version of rebab as far west as like Iran. In the more Central Asian countries, they have rebab variants like in Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. And then the rebab that like I play is kind of like what's found in Afghanistan, and then also like the South Asian continent, so in Pakistan and India. The rebab is the predecessor of the sarod. So if you're not familiar with rebab, which was more of a mainstay in Indian classical music about 100 years ago or so, there's been even within Indian classical music, there's been a lot of instruments just in the past 100 years that have kind of like fallen to antiquity. So, everyone knows about sitar, but they don't know about surbahar, or they may know about sarod, but not know about sursingar. So rebab kind of made its way. The story is that rebab made its way to India. And then back then, there was just a lot of trading back and forth. And so a bunch of like horse traders from Afghanistan just decided to stay in India, and seeing the vocal tradition, started to adapt the rebab so that it could better emulate the human voice, because that's what we're all trying to do, be it the rebab, my rebab, sarod, sitar, bansuri, sarangi, whatever. You're trying to emulate the first voice, and that's instrument, and that's the voice. And so the rebab was modified a bit, and it resembles now you have the sarod, which is very popular in North Indian classical music. Yeah, how's that? Good? More?
Yeah, awesome.
I can go more.
We're all thinking about this. Well, everybody here has something to share. And I know that one of the things we wanted to do, everybody here except me has been to India.
And Aaron.
Huh?
Aaron.
Oh, Aaron. Oh, right. He was about to go, but he didn't quite get there, right? So we were wondering if those of you who have been there have like any anecdote you would tell about like a time in India that was particularly cool for you.
Well, I can say
stories jump out?
The first time I went to India, I was on tour with a jazz band from Singapore, and yeah, it's a long story, but it was actually kind of a fusion jazz band, quartet, and we flew to Delhi, and it was one of those crazy times. You fly, you sleep, you wake up in the morning, you go to the venue, you play the concert, you go to the next city, and so I didn't have a great experience, and I said, but I want to go shop. But they wouldn't let me do things, but just driving in the city, it was an amazing. I was very impressed by the way they drive, But I didn't get to experience much of the country. So, but that let me, because of my interest, obviously, my big interest in Indian music, it made me make a trip just to backpack. I just brought my backpack and my violin, and I landed in Bombay, and I went all the way to Mysore. Between buses and things, I spent about 4 weeks, almost 4 weeks, just without a map, without a plan. And that got me to meet the people and musicians, and it was a life-changing experience. I mean, I've never seen so many loving people. I mean, everybody was so kind. I just couldn't understand how these people are so nice. and
You
the
live in
food,
LA,
oh my,
Jesus.
say what?
You live in LA, everybody.
Well, that's true. But and then the food and everything, it's just a combination. And I am, because I'm and probably Ray, you know, understands this, I mean, knows this very well. It's like, in my experience of learning music from other countries, and I speak 4 languages, I understand the relationship between the music and the language, the rhythmic relationship. So when you hear people speak, then you understand, oh, oh, that comes, you know, or in Portuguese, you know, for instance, it's such a romantic language, you know, but it's all the sounds and all that is in the music, you know. So having had the opportunity to be in a place where nobody spoke English or not very good, and listening to that, it just enriched my ears alone just by listening to people speak. And,
yeah, that's a great point.
yeah.
That's a little bit, we just had that comment a little while ago about them all the instruments imitating the original sound, which is the voice.
Yeah, it's and also,
parallel.
by the way, I mentioned that my family's Italian. My grandfather wanted me to be a tenor, and I cannot even sing in the shower. So very early age, I decided the violin was going to be my voice. So the way I play, even when I improvise, I'm an improviser. You know, even when I'm improvising, and especially with Indian music, I'm not improvising. I'm singing. I'm singing melodies. I'm doing things. You know, in Arabic music too. I've studied Arabic music as well. It's very vocal, and the way I look at inspiration for playing, I look at singers more than anybody else.
Ray, do you have any particular fun story, or just, you know, if you don't, it's fine. I know that you spent some time there.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is a fun story. Well, okay, here is one thing. So I arrived at like what was 3 a.m. there, local time, and I was there for my guru's Guru Purnima, and I was with a group of like 6 or 7 people who had come from out of the country, and so Guruji is like, okay, I'll meet you at the hotel, and then, you know, we're not going to do that much touristy stuff, but let's go to like the downtown area. We'll like go to the market, but then, you know, we'll have a more curated experience. And within 15 minutes of walking down the street, you know, we're on like this is in Ahmedabad, by the way. So we're walking down the street, and there's an elephant coming down the street, and he's like, he runs up to the elephant rider and he starts speaking to him, and he's like, oh, that's my friend's elephant. That's my friend's elephant. So he like, he calls the elephant over. The elephant was on its way to temple. And so the elephant is like, makes this turn down a side road. So got to feed the elephant and ride the elephant. This is all within, you know, jet lag. Like my first 20 minutes on the street in India, my teacher,
an elephant,
his friend's elephant on the street.
That's sweet.
That's quite an experience, I would say. I have not gotten a chance to ride an elephant here.
You know, that's true in New York too. Nobody in New York ever goes to like the Statue of Liberty. It's all tourists.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So there's a question about touring. I will modify it a little bit and ask you, you know, because of COVID, I'm sure you guys are not able to go on tours. So how are you interacting with your audience? What are you doing to keep making your music and stay in touch with your fans and audience members?
I can. I would say touring is about 70% of what I do, and obviously that came to a halt just this year alone. I think The last time I counted, it was like 43 concerts that I got canceled. And that hurt, but also it gave me an opportunity to do things that I would normally keep putting off, like finishing my record and writing for other people and learning more computer stuff, learning more software. I just got certified in Ableton Live, which I've been meaning for the last 10 years. I'm going to learn Ableton better. I'm going to learn Ableton. So I've used it that way. I have a 10-year-old son, which is also great to spend more time with him. So, I mean, I try to see a little bit of the positive, I don't know. I mean, eventually we'll tour again. I mean, I don't have anything in my calendar until March of next year at this point. And that is still pending. It says pending. So we'll see. You have to make the best of it. In my case, personally, I've been writing quite a bit and enjoying family time. And I've been a little bit out of the live streaming and reaching my followers and stuff. I apologize for that. I needed a break as well. So.
I know that Aaron has jumped into live streaming because I actually sort of learned about it by helping him some. That was how I first got my first taste of learning how to do that.
I'm a lot like Jesus. I had, I think, 25 concerts canceled between March and now. Some of them, I should say, did go online, and thankfully Steve and my close-up system were very close at hand. I did a thing last night on Facebook with a gentleman who does like a podcast, live podcast. I played and did an interview with him. But my last concert was at the end of June online, and I haven't gone that long without a concert in probably 15 years. So it is, I was nervous getting ready to watch myself play tonight. And, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm performing. But I'm like Jesus. I have a project, the new Lullaby project. I've been collecting lullabies from composers around the world for over 14 years. And finally, I'm putting out a second album. And so I've been going back in the studio, organizing some publishing stuff. I don't write music, but I like to write, so I'm trying to do that. But reaching audience, I'm kind of grateful for social media. I do newsletters when I can, but also I find it's a really nice time to kind of hibernate. I look forward to getting out of this, and hopefully we've learned something if we haven't burned down or done anything else horrible in the world. But I have concerts scheduled for February. I have a couple things in December, but everything's online, I'm assuming. February, we'll see. But I'm supposed to go to Europe next spring, and I have no idea if that will happen. I really hope. Really, really, really hope.
Us too.
Yeah.
Guys, do you have to add?
Well, I mean, everyone else has been out of shows. I think collectively out like 75 shows this year, because I was supposed to do a lot of touring this year. A lot of it was postponed for next year, which is sick. But yeah, dude, I've also been like touring and like really like working hard for like the past 10 years, like nonstop. So yeah, I'm taking this time for me, and it's like just watching everything kind of like burn from where I live, super far away from like, everyone else. But yeah, I've like worked on stuff, and I have different things coming out on different things, but I think that's like the most important part for the music is to take that time for me. We like we put so much pressure on ourselves to be prolific, and you're being, you know, we're trying to be prolific in an era where like something like art has to compete with something like, you know, like a meme, right? So you have there's just so much to doing this professionally, and it took like the world like just completely coming to a halt for me to get a break, because it's like I can't go in tour right now, can't uh can't do it. No one
Absolutely.
cares about like no one cares right now, so it's like okay, uh you know, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm recharging.
Right.
Nice, very nice. Um,
I have a question came in actually for me, sort of. It says, any plans to design mics for wind instruments, specifically saxophone? And actually, about 6 months ago, we worked on a prototype for a saxophone player. So this is from Arun Lutra, if I'm pronouncing it right. And if Arun wants to send us an email, we can be in touch, and I can tell him where we're at with that, and maybe get something into his hands. I also want to mention that on the East Coast here, which is me and Ray and Aaron, it's 2:15 in the morning. And so you guys are welcome to stay as long as you like, but I also don't want to hold you to staying much beyond this point. So, you know, when you're ready to go, just give us a wave goodbye and say thanks, and that's okay.
Yeah.
okay, there are a few questions coming in, but as Steve said, you know, feel free to, you know, just leave. But thank you. Okay, so there's a question, and I would like to welcome Arvid Tomeko to this panel. He's a CTO of Your Heaven Audio, also a saxophone player. Hi, Arvid.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Actually, a trumpet player.
Trumpet player, yes.
Yeah, my bad, sorry. Though there is a question, is saxophone hard to learn? Is it difficult to learn?
Well, I've never tried.
Yeah, me neither.
Hey, can I say something?
Yeah, do you know?
Well, I just bought a brand new saxophone. I've always wanted to play wind instrument, and somebody told me that's one of the easiest ones.
Okay, well, there's the answer.
Yeah, they told me it's fairly easy. I have it still in the case, wrapped in plastic, and it's on my to-do list of instruments to play. But I asked a lot of wind players, friends of mine, and they all agree. So sax, it's the easiest wind instrument to learn to play.
Now that you mention it, Albert Sax, who's the inventor of the saxophone, he did it by modifying the clarinet form, which had been around for a while, and those other reed instruments, and adding what is known, I think, as a double reed to make it easier to play. So it was actually designed to be an easier to play kind of wind instrument. So yeah, so whoever asked that question, that's the right one.
Okay, great. So there's one person.
Aaron, did you have a comment, or was that a goodbye?
I was waving to Ray.
I'm gonna head out. I gotta wake up in the morning. It is 2:20 in the morning. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Ray,
great.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Awesome job, Ray. We have to talk.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll take one last question from the audience. It says, what's your favorite piece to play? Do you have any favorite pieces, guru pieces? Do you want to talk about your, favorite artists, styles?
It cause a lot of problems. I know a lot of composers, and if I pick one, I can't pick one.
Well, pick a dead one.
I will say, well, as a classical musician, I think I love, there's different levels, because of course, whatever I'm playing at that moment has to be my favorite piece. but also some pieces are tactilely, the way they feel is just amazing. And I can't play just one thing. I get bored. And so if I play a lot of Bach, then after so much time, and it could be a couple hours, it could be a couple days, I have to do something else. And I love contemporary music. I love 12-tone music. I love music. I play John Cage, who would, you know, really just mess with the head and ideas of sound. And if I do too much Cage, I find I got to get back to Bach, or I got to do something. I play in a flamenco group with a dancer, and it's like there's nothing more alive than being, you know, having rhythm kind of pulsed into you by a dancer. So it really depends on the day of the week and the mood. But in all of them, I think what everyone, I really want to just touch on one thing that Kais was saying, because he was so on this idea of communication and the voice. You know, I haven't been to India, but I studied India. I took an North Indian music class in college with an amazing sitarist, Peter Rowe, who has since passed away. But he introduced me to the writings of Hazrat Inayat Khan, Sufi Vinya player, late 19th century, early 20th century. His writings were amazing, and I have all of his books next to my bed. And the idea of rasa and this communication between the audience and the performer. In flamenco, you have, it's circular. You have these rhythm cycles, and everyone knows them. You'll go to a party, and everyone's doing the palmas and ole, and it's you're communicating. And I remember going to see Ravi Shankar, and I was up in the cheap seats, and I was looking down, and you could see the audience counting along on their hand, and I was like, oh, there's this tradition of listening and corresponding, which doesn't exist the same way in classical music. And in Italy, that does. If you do something amazing, bravo, brava, they just tell you in the middle of the piece. But in the West, in America and England, I think it's the English, we're pretty uptight, and it just drives me crazy. So when I started learning about Indian music, that really spoke to me, and I wanted to bring that to classical music. I wanted to take the folk music fire of flamenco and bring that into the classical music. And so that, there's spirituality, there's sound, and there's, favorite. It's just what's touching my heart, and how do I get out of the way so fast enough so the music can be communicated. I've been holding that in ever since Kais opened the door, and that's just, thank you, sir.
Amen
So
to
those are
that.
my favorite piece. Oh, there's a story, and it's Indian. This was told me by Peter Rowe. He said this Indian player came down. He was playing a tar, which is a plucked string instrument. Every day he'd come back to his home, and he'd pick up his instrument and he'd play the same note over and over and over again. And this goes on for years. And one day his wife just gets angry and explodes and says, "Honey, why? Why do you play the same note every day? Our neighbors, they play melodies. The other neighbor, he plays dances. Why do you play the same note?" And he turns to her and says, "They're all looking for my note." It's the one note. It's that sound. There you go. It's getting late, so now I'm going to start rambling.
It is another East Coaster there.
You've
Guys,
got 4 minutes. No, go ahead. Someone else talk.
do you have any favorite composers?
Composers. Wait, who
Music.
said yeah? Well, did I just step on someone's or something?
Not sure. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Let's see. On the Western side, I like the contemporary minimal composers. So I like Terry Riley, who had studied Indian classical music. I like Steve Reich, music for 18 musicians. Probably like one of the recordings that changed my perception of music. I was like, whoa, music can be this, which was super cool. On the other side, I mean, Baba Alauddin Khan from the Maihar Gharana and like all of his students. I mean, he's I would say the most important figure of Indian classical music in the last century. And then, his students, Pandit Ravi Shankar Ustad, Ali Akbar Khan Sahib, inspirations till this day. So yeah, there's not one thing that I like playing. That's kind of like limiting yourself to one color to use. It just really depends on what I want to do at that time.
Yeah.
Sure.
One of the most common things people normally ask me is, what kind of music do you like? And to me, the answer is simple, it's depend when you ask. I have this thing for, obviously, as a violinist, Bach is very important for the violin. So I have this kind of morning ritual that either I play some Bach or I listen to some Bach. Even if I'm doing something, getting ready, my morning routine, I play, either some cantatas or some keyboard music. If I'm gonna warm up the violin, I normally play some Bach. It's like my center. But I listen to so much music every day. I mean, I can go for hours talking about, different styles. But in my case, because I work so much, it comes work related. If I'm working on this project, well, I have to keep my ear on this. If I'm working on that, I keep my ear on that. And then thank God for the phones connecting to my car and so much traffic in LA. I actually write a lot of music in the car. I came up with ideas. I'm listening to something, an idea, and then I record on my phone. I have over 1,000 little snippets of melodies that occur to me on my phone. And I come to my studio, I open my computer, and I write something. I am a composer. So, I mean, I keep always looking for ideas and inspiration. Yeah, I'm stuck in traffic in LA all the time. So it's very, I take traffic. I know traffic's going to be there, so it doesn't stress me out.
Right.
I actually enjoy the time, and I use it. Use technology to enjoy that
Nobody
time.
can bother you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, this is my personal favorite question because you learn about so many new musicians and composers through someone else's style or inspiration. You always get exposed to new sort of music by listening to what others hear. So thank you guys for sharing. There was this one person who had raised their hand. They're not here anymore. Steve, do you have any questions?
Pardon?
Did you guys have any questions for each other?
Right.
When are we getting together to play some music?
As soon as we come up with a streaming service that allows us to do that in real time, huh?
Let me tell you, man.
Or when this all
That's what
clears up.
Arvid was doing. Arvid, I mean, aren't you supposed to fix the lag time thing going?
I can't fix time.
The
speed is the speed of light sort of problem.
Yeah. Although I think there was an experiment recently where they actually measured something that went faster than the speed of light.
Well, the time thing was actually a question, or like something I was really interested me as all the different conceptions of time in the different music that you were all playing. Like starting with Kais's piece, like it feels like you're almost out of time. You're in this one moment. To the sort of the like really intense rhythmicness of your stuff, Jesus, and Aaron, the little the second to last piece where it's almost like these little packets of time that expand and contract, and it's sort of fluid. in that way, and also in Vasily's piece. And it's just, and then you get, so there's all these different conceptions of time, and then you get to like the idea of physicists saying that time isn't real and we only experience it because the entropy of the universe increases and never decreases, and we're just experiencing the area of time because of entropy. But and so I was wondering if any of you had any thoughts about time and music. And
well, I'm a drummer, so you asked me why I didn't play the drums, and the answer is partly because we stumbled into Ray, who did this cool Indian thing with drums, so it was kind of like born for this concert. You know, it's an interesting thing. I think I have noticed that sometimes that when I'm playing drums, my sense of time is a little different. I can't remember whether it tends to slow down or speed up, but when I stop playing, all of a sudden things feel a little different. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but I do get a sense that, you know, like if I stop playing and then a metronome is going that I'm playing with, it will sound at a different speed than it was while I was playing. Right, so my perception changes based upon what I'm doing in my relationship to time in the world around me. And I'm not going anywhere near the speed of light, so that shouldn't really be noticeable.
Well, I have to say something. When I was in college, I went to see a master class with the great John Delancey. John Delancey was the principal oboist of the Philadelphia Orchestra with Eugene Normandy, and he was old. It was in his late 80s. It was, and then there's a group of about 200 master students, you know, listening to the man speak. And then one of the first things he asked to the class was, what makes a quarter note a quarter note? You know, and when you have a room full of nerds, the explanations were like the most technical that you could ever imagine, you know. And he goes, no. And after he let him fight for a little bit, I have to say I was wise enough not to say anything. And then he goes, silence. Silence determines what a quarter note is. So if you don't add silence to your music, there's no rhythm. There's nothing, you know. So I've always been kind of obsessed with that concept, even when being an improviser, to make space, you know, because space is what determines rhythm, you know. So if you do it with your breath, rhythm tends to be natural. I mean, I was very impressed with you guys. I mean, you were out. I mean, I knew when you explained what was in your head, I knew it. You were in some other planet, my friend. and I felt it, you know. And if you do it the right way, the audience will breathe with you, will feel that part. And that is that incredible communication that you can do with your audiences. I was very moved by you. It was impressive.
Yeah, man. Anything that I say, I feel like it's just gonna come off like way too weird. But
no, it's okay.
one of my one of my like gurus early on once kind of like wanted to stress the importance of like ego to me in relation to music, because music for us is more of like it's very spiritual, just because we believe that, you know, music I'm really sorry, this is like 11 in the morning in India. We're going to talk about existentialism. The universe was created with sound, right? So whatever, you have different faiths that have different stories, but it's basically the same thing. It started with some kind of sound. So music is just a perception of some kind of sound. So this music is supposed to be sacred, and it's supposed to be kind of like, if you align yourself correctly, I'm so sorry about all this. If you align yourself correctly, you kind of are able to tap into that like source, like original kind of like sound. Yeah. So that's that. So what I was taught super early on was like, you know, if you take, for example, if you take like a pillow and you were to stuff it in the sound cavity of like a guitar, or if you were to fill like the cavity of a tabla, right? Or if you were to fill the inside of a rabab, uh, or like your violin, you know, right? What's the outcome? The sound, the instrument sounds dead. There's no sound. There's no life to it. Yeah. So one of my early lessons growing up was like, just like the rabab, just like I started playing sitar before I played the rabab when I was like 10. So just like the sitar and everything, all these gourd type instruments, just like these are hollow. You too must be hollow to be able to like transmit all that stuff. So again, so sorry. This is like but like yeah, that's kind of like, it's like when I say I check out, it's not like, it's kind of like I just kind of move aside, right? Our riyaz, or our practice, what we're doing is that we're building like muscle memory, and we're building the ability to do things physically with our body, right? So that when we receive the music, you're able to execute it, right? Music is all over, right? Music is literally all over. If I sing a third to the hum of the fridge, that's a harmony right there. That's music. And that's music in a very specific context, right? And with that Western parameter, right? I'll sing some chord with that like hum, and that's music, right? But music can be more than that. And yeah. So it's I can go on, but if
No, don't be.
just mute me. I'll just take that as a
No, that was some great philosophy, and I think it's nice to hear what your philosophies are behind what you do. I will though take a sort of a pivot, and I want to talk like touch base on the technology a little bit, and how tech integrates into what you guys do, and how you guys connect with your audience members, with your music, with your instruments. So yeah, I know all of you are very techy. So especially Aaron, he's very social media savvy and loves technology. So yeah, Aaron, do you use close-up system? I'm sure you use other gear as well. Do you have any two pieces to add to bits?
Well, it's interesting. I don't consider myself tech-wise at all. I met Steve at a concert in in Providence, Rhode Island, probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7, and he asked if he could stick this microphone in my guitar that was held together by rubber bands, and I was like, cool, sure. And I actually forgot about that, and he reminded me of how wild that was, that I let him touch my instrument. But I played electric guitar, and I had a lot of gear. And one reason I stopped playing electric guitar is I hated carrying around gear. So I like using the close-up system very much because it gives the sound of my instrument, and it's small. And I can control it, or at least have an idea of a sense of control. Because of COVID, I have learned much more, and as Steve can attest, I've spent many hours trying to figure out how to get an acoustic instrument to sound halfway decent on YouTube and all these places. I guess
right, we learned that together, actually.
Yeah. I guess like
so, right, we had our microphone.
Right.
Our microphone does what you need to start out with, but after that, figuring out the whole routine of how to make that go over the internet, that was quite a process. But I learned it by working with you. So that was helpful.
So I have other mics. As you can see, I have one here, and I'm messing around with it. I think it's part of occasionally people say, YouTube and social media, that's not the real world. We're going to get back to live concerts. And I do love live concerts, but it reminds me of the pianist Glenn Gould, who wrote that live concerts will die because recordings will take over. We don't know the future. Right now, YouTube and Facebook have been around for 10, 15 years. I don't see them going anywhere at the moment. And so I think learning how to use the systems we have, it's just like a language. It changes. I don't think everything's going to die. I mean, we might burn down, we might be flooded, but we're not going to, music will still be here. And yeah.
Got it. Okay, so let's actually take a step back and introduce the audience to close-up systems. So Arvid, can you please talk a little bit about the close-up system and how we've used it for this particular concert especially?
Real quick, I'm dying here. Sorry guys. It's 2:45 in the morning for me. It's been awesome. You guys are wonderful, women, ladies, men. Thank you, and thank you to all the listeners. I'm going to go dream a bit. And we'll talk more. Thank you all.
Wonderful.
Have a great night, Aaron.
I think I have to follow Aaron as well.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, maybe we can dream hangout or jam or something. Maybe there's no latency in dream time.
The internet of the dream world, right?
We'll do the first internet is through the dream.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Good night.
Yeah, those are some really fabulous performances. Yeah, really enjoying watching that. My name's Arvid Tomeko. I'm the CTO, Chief Technology Officer at Your Heaven. So I do a lot of the, Steve and I did a lot of research together over the years, recorded many, many instruments played by many wonderful musicians and got to listen to them. And I do a lot of the coding. I write the software that goes into these devices, and the software that goes on the circuit boards, and I work on the circuit boards. Looks like that inside. So the close-up system is really special because normally you have to, if you're miking an acoustic instrument, you have to somehow get that sound into your sound system so you can either record it or amplify it live. And normally you have to choose between either having a bad sound, so it doesn't sound very good when you amplify, or you can choose to have a nice sound, but you can't amplify it very loud because you start to get feedback from your speakers, or you pick up everything else in the room if you're recording. If you're recording in in a room in a house like this, you'll end up someone will flush the toilet, and a truck will drive by, and that'll all be in your recording. And so the close-up system lets you not have to make that choice, which you have to make with all sorts of other traditional ways of recording or amplifying acoustic string instruments. And so we do that by sticking, we have a special microphone that comes with it that goes into the instrument. It's really small. You saw Steve had one earlier. Okay. Well, as you can see, I have so many things on my desk here that are in development. There's an LCD screen in it. Anyway, but the mic goes inside the instrument, and what's special is that we developed a way to make it sound like it's outside the instrument in a place that a sound engineer would put it. And so you don't get the sound of the room, you don't get the sound of the truck driving by, the toilet flushing, but what you do get is the beautiful acoustic sound of the instrument, as if you were in a recording studio with a really good engineer. And so it makes it sort of an ideal thing for doing these kinds of concerts.
Great, thank you. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. I think we will like to end this beautiful concert. I hope you enjoyed listening to the musicians, chatting with the musicians. What we tried to do was bring in the arts and the culture of the world through these performances and how it integrates with the technology that was sponsored by Your Heaven Audio and through their product close-up system, which all these musicians were using. I know most of the audience members are beginners, so as we had asked when you were registering for this event, so if you want to learn more about each of these musicians or about the products that they were using, we will share the links in the email that we'll send to you. But even otherwise, if you have any other questions, there is a Facebook broadcast going on Bhagwan Mahavir University's Facebook page and Your Heaven Audio's Facebook page. Please feel free to leave comments there and we'll make sure we get back to you. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, for your time. We really enjoyed chatting with you and I hope you had fun. Thank you so much, Steve and Arvid. And I would like to end by thanking the Bhagwan Mahavir University team and the Your Heaven Audio team for making this possible, and for staying up so late, especially people in the US, and for working so hard, especially people in India. I know it's the working morning. So thank you, Jainesh, the social media team, Nirali ma'am, so many people who work behind the scenes. And
thank all of them so much.
Yes, it was really great. Thank you guys, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you,
Prachi. Arvid and Steve.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.